everyone, I'm Nicolette
Hello, I'm Queenie.
and we are from Enhanced Property Insights. Today in this video, we'll be doing something quite different. So if you have a budget of 2.5 to 3 mil and you don't know what to buy in the market today, most agents that you meet will probably be recommending you to buy a new launch. That being said, recently the new launches have been selling 80, 90% or even almost fully sold. So sometimes even if you want to buy, if you don't have a good ballot number, you don't even have the opportunity to. So what we'll be covering today is a bit about what you can consider in the resale market that gives you a bit more certainty based on whatever options there are available.
Okay, so with that, let us take a look at a very brief comparison between a new launch and a resale first. Right, by resale, of course, later we will go through the various options. Okay, so the recent benchmark average PSF for new launch has gone up to starting from around 2526. Okay, whereas resale, of course, is gonna trend at a lower benchmark for sure, right, up to 2006 PSF. So the size that it translates, for a new launch, maybe it's up to 1,200 square feet only. Whereas for resale, we will definitely be looking at bigger options, up to 1,005 square feet. And what are the odds of you securing a unit? Right, new launch, of course, you need to go through balloting, right, or else you'll be looking at the remaining units in the post-launch market. Whereas resale is just up to which seller is gonna sell their unit at any point of time. Payment scheme is also very different. New launch, you have the luxury of paying your mortgage progressively, right? Mortgage can start from maybe as low as a few $100s per month. Okay, for resale, upon completion, you need to pay for your full mortgage. Okay, and move-in time also, new launch, you need to wait to up to 4 years. Okay, for resale, if the completion is as short as possible, maybe in 3 months' time you can collect your keys.
So for context, we'll be using our PACE framework to analyze the different projects like what we have done in our previous video. So we will actually come up with our top pick based on this PACE framework. So to briefly go through what PACE framework is all about, P is for potential, basically what could actually drive up your property price of your development. A, your alternatives, what other alternatives you can actually potentially consider if you were to look at a particular project. C, your cost of entry, what price are you actually paying for? And E, of course, your exit strategy, who are you going to be selling to, whether it's easy to sell in the future or not.
So let's take a look at the first case study. This is a client that we served earlier part of this year. Right, they have a budget of up to 3 million. It's a family of 4, and because they were upgrading from their 4-room BTO, right, they can accept 1,000 square feet unit. So for them, importantly, they were actually looking to upgrade from their BTO in the northeast area to somewhere a bit more accessible to CBD. Yeah, cause the traveling time to CBD every morning from Punggol, Sengkang, right, you know lah, with the peak hour jam, everything, it can be quite long. So their non-negotiable is every morning, right, by train, they have to reach our office in 30 minutes. So of course for us, usually how we work with our clients is we want to make sure they explore all the potential options. So when we did a streamline at the start, right, there were actually 38 potential projects. But of course today we're not going to go through all these. Eventually the one that we streamlined to is actually Park Esta. Park Esta actually TOP very recently, I think in 2022. And location-wise, if you look at the map here, it's actually right opposite Eunos MRT.
Why we selected it is because it's a mega development, 1,399 units, so that's really quite big, and it's relatively new as we mentioned earlier. So why we selected this for our client is because of their criteria. At that point of time, they wanted 3 proper bedrooms and of course, like we mentioned, a utility and a store. So this actually offers whatever that they were looking for. So an enclosed kitchen with a utility, a WC, 2 common bedrooms that can definitely fit a queen size bed, and a sizable master bedroom. But one thing that I didn't really like about this floor plan is that the balcony actually stretches to bedroom 3, which in my opinion, that's not really necessary. But out of all the layouts that we saw and we compared based on their requirements, we will run through a little bit of the potential in terms of the location. Why is it great? Why did our clients enter? Is because in the future your Paya Lebar 8 base is actually moving out, so that actually clears out the height limit and there'll be more future land coming up there, so that will kind of push up the overall prices. And as we mentioned, Park Esta is right at the doorstep of MRT, so if we look around the area, there's actually practically no other not many supply for 3 bedrooms nearby other than one stop down, which is at Paya Lebar Park Place. Total of 78 units of 3 bedders, but that development is only 429. So we compared the layout, which we'll share a little bit on later. The layout is not very good because it didn't have a store, and in terms of quantum it's higher and also on a smaller land plot, right? So if they're planning to sell it in the future, their pool of buyers are basically the HDBs around the area, from your Eunos, Bedok, Tampines, your Bayshore, and your future like Kemangan upcoming BTOs. Queen and I, we actually compared the other alternatives for them when we take a look at Park Esta.
Definitely, it's not the case where we see Park Esta and we straight away commit to it, right? It was important for us to also look at other comparable projects. Okay, so here we are actually comparing Park Esta against other MRT projects, right, in the area. Okay, so to our left, okay, first of all, okay, Penrose is also a very popular project that TOP in recent years. Okay, sizable, 1,000 over square feet. Okay, price is also very attractive, right? We're talking about 200k price gap. Okay, when we zoom in on unit, the layout is also very decent, 3-bedder, okay, with 2 baths. And personally, I like how the kitchen is actually flush to one side of the unit, unlike many of the conventional layout. Okay, but one thing to note is our bathroom 2 here actually didn't come with a window. Okay, and if let's say, I mean, in our case, our clients, their priority is really transportation network, right? For Penrose, okay, they still need to take about 10 minutes walk to the MRT station every day. Okay, so of course, okay, then we move on to Park Place. This is literally at Paya Lebar MRT. Okay, just now I mentioned layout is not as good. Okay, why? Because you realize we actually don't have a storeroom, right, for this layout. And our balcony actually looks a bit funny lah. Okay, it's very long but narrow at the same time. So it's definitely not possible for us to fit a dining table. Maybe at most we can only hang clothes. Okay, so at the same time also, okay, Park Place Residence project is not as big, right? So 400 over units versus Park Esta, we have close to 1,400 units. Okay, so eventually, of course, you know, with facilities and also consideration for upside, capital upside, right? Park Esta definitely came out to be a more desirable development lah. Okay, then of course we also want to take a look at the developments at the East Coast stretch, okay, a lifestyle area that many of our clients also aspire to upgrade to. Okay, Vela Bay is actually at Bayshore MRT, similar configuration, 2.83. Okay, so price gap, okay, close to 100k, and actually this is a ground floor unit. Okay, next Seaside, this is at Siglap MRT. Okay, here is where we see really the price disparity become a bit bigger, more than 100k difference. Okay, though of course one thing I want to highlight is, okay, their study slash storeroom here is more of like a flexi area. Okay, so it's also good for families who maybe they want to have the flexibility to like reconfigure the space, right? This can be doable for this layout in Seaside.
So we also compared the other alternatives with similar configurations. So what we actually filtered out are basically, because what our clients was looking out was for a 3-bedder with utilities as well, with a minimum 1,000 square feet. So that was what we actually looked at, and this is our analysis of projects that are also completed 2020 and onwards. Okay, so we have our Park Esta, which is what we have already went through. Next, we will focus on Seaside with the similar size. Next, we take a look at Seaside Residence, which is actually doorstep to the Siglap MRT. Size-wise, is quite similar to what we can get at Park Esta. Quantum-wise is a bit different, so it's about 100k gap in terms of the price. But one thing is why our pick is Park Esta is because of its amenities surrounding of Park Esta. You get a bit more amenities, you are very close by to the mall, but at Seaside you're actually mainly surrounded by landed homes, and it's not so accessible, I would say, to a mall. You probably got to drive or take a bus to a mall. Okay, and then we take a look further down, we do have Grand Diamond. So Grand Diamond is reaching its TOP in about Q3 or 4 this year. Basically, most of the units have already sold out, so there are some units that are coming out in terms of sub-sale already. So a 3-bed that follows our criteria that we're looking for is actually going at 3.08 mil. In terms of, I would say the layout, layout is actually pretty decent. You get enclosed kitchen, everything that our client was looking for. But the price wise was a 330k gap. So I'm not sure if y'all would pay 330k more, but we'll talk about that later on, right? And then another project would be your Tembusu Grand, nearer towards your Tanjong Katong area. So this one has just reached its TOP recently also. Layout is also very, very efficient, as we can see from the newer developments these days. Size wise is a bit bigger. But I think more importantly is that this project, if today you're looking to enter Tembusu, that puts us at about 550k gap between our pick, which was Park Esta lah. We'll share a bit more in terms of the cost of entry. Like, Queenie, will you pay 550k or even 300k more for a newer unit maybe?
Yeah, I mean, offhand, half a mil is a lot of money lah. But I think most importantly, we look at the exact breakdown, right? How the down payment and the loan looks different for these two price points. At 2.8 million, assuming you're taking a max loan, okay, for our clients' case, they're middle age already. Most of our clients, when they are looking to upgrade from their first home, usually they will be at this age range. Okay, so anyway, at 2.8 million today, if you're taking a max loan, your down payment will be 800k. Okay, versus 3.3 mil purchase, okay, down payment you need to prep 160k more, okay, which is definitely not a small sum. Okay, importantly, our monthly mortgage eventually will be a matter of $10,000 per month versus 12k per month, so $2,000 difference. Okay, so most of our clients in this age range looking at a higher quantum purchase, they won't look to take a max loan. So here we also compare, if let's say you're only taking 50% loan, okay, down payment will be a matter of 1.5 million versus 1.78 million, 280k difference, which is even more substantial. Okay, of course, monthly mortgage will be 7k versus 8,003 difference. Okay, so of course this really depends on your personal situation, right? Everybody has different numbers, different priorities. Okay, but for our clients, okay, they really wanted to be a bit more conservative with this upgrade. Okay, and I think key thing is Park Esta already tick their boxes, right? Convenience, something that is not too old, and a big project, right? So that they still have room for growth. So eventually for them, okay, Park Esta at the 2.7 range make more sense. So of course, we also want to cover the exit, right? Okay, our clients actually, they don't have an exact timeline. Okay, they may move in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, they are not sure. Okay, so importantly here, what we went through with them is, okay, we know for sure that the buyer pool here is very strong. Okay, we have HDB upgraders and landed downgraders as well. Okay, especially, I think recently we have met a lot of landed owners, right? For the longest time, they always need to drive. But when they look to retire in their 60s, 70s, they want to sell their car, right? They want somewhere that's as accessible as possible. So Park Esta is actually one of the very popular development. Okay. In terms of transaction, okay, over 2 years, we have close to 30 units that change hands. Okay, so if we put things into perspective, every month 1 to 2 units of 3-bedder actually transact. Okay, and most importantly will be price protection. Okay, yes, today you're gonna buy from a first owner or potentially even second owner, right? But importantly is what is the upcoming prices in the immediate radius. Okay, so here next part, okay, we are showing you, okay, in Bedok Rise, which is at Tanah Merah MRT. Okay, as you know, record-breaking GLS took place earlier this year lah. Okay, in short, this new land plot, okay, the starting PSF will be 3,000 and above. Okay, and this is at Tanah Merah, further away from the city centre. Okay, if you are enjoying our content so far, please do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. Okay, so closer to where we are, Bedok, Tanah Merah also have some sub-sale transaction. Okay, Sky Eden actually sold at more than 2.7 mil, right, for a similar floor plan. Okay, Seneca, okay, slightly lower, 2.45. This goes to show us the demand right along the green line. Okay, and I think most importantly, end of the day, Park Esta still stood out amongst all these other subsale options. Okay, once again will be the proximity to town, okay, and the nature of the development. It's a big size project, okay, with very nice facilities, landscaping.
Now we will actually share a little bit more on another client, also with a similar budget, but this time round they were a family that's looking for a 4-bedroom lah. Their family size is 2 adults and 2 children, but the kids were of older age, so tertiary education, and the minimum size that they were looking for was 1,200 square feet lah. Yeah, in terms of location, because their kids have generally grown up already, they're quite flexible in terms of location. So we actually sold their place that they have stayed there for over 30 years. And the reason why they're really looking is because they wanted something a bit newer, basically to refresh their lease lah. So again, we went through what kind of options that are available. A bit of criteria is again TOP 2020 and beyond, because they wanted something that's newer, precisely why they were planning to move. Minimum 200 units, and of course the minimum price of 2.5 to 3 mil. Yeah, so with that, we have a total of 23 projects that we came up with. Again, we won't be going through every single thing, but based on our framework, our top pick was this project called Clermont. So Clermont is basically a project in Clementi area in the west, and it's not the nearest towards the MRT lah, but I would say in terms of the size of the development, that actually meets one of our framework that we do follow very closely. It has a total of 640 units, and this project TOP in 2024. This means that this project is actually really very new. It's about only 2 years old, and in terms of the size of the 4-bedder, there you can get actually something at 1,281. So quantum wise, we are looking at about 2.83 million, and this is kind of layout that you get. You do have a wet and dry kitchen, a proper store. Basically 3 of the bedrooms are tucked to one side, 1 bedroom, 1 other common bedroom on the other side, and then a portrait living and dining area. Right, so when we compare that to, you know, like why did we actually choose this as an opportunity for our clients to enter, right? It's because of its location lah. Yeah, as we know, the Clermont is in the Clementi area, so you're very close by to your One North, NUS, your Science Park, and then there will be a cross island line that will be cutting through Clementi as well, so that gives us that future price protection. If you have been searching for properties in that area, right, you'll know that actually there's very limited supply of 4 bedrooms. So only 70% of the nearby new launches have a supply of 4 bedrooms lah. And generally, what we see is that the large layouts here are really very rare. So if you've seen from the news, right, you'll probably notice that where we are located, where Clermont is located, is actually surrounded by a lot of billion-dollar HDBs lah.
One of the most recent headline is a 5-room actually sold at a record-breaking 1.51 million. Right? I mean, I don't know what this amount means to you, but to put things into perspective, this BTO upgrader actually cashed out close to 800k cash. Right, so later when we look at the numbers, you see how this 800k cash comes in the picture to help fund the down payment of the upgrade.
And of course, the rental demand here is very strong, as we mentioned, because you're near the Science Park, you're near NUS. Yeah, so you basically have people who are looking to rent for school or the doctors or for work, you know, yeah.
Before we finally streamlined to Clermont, we also went to take a look at all the other comparable projects, right? So this is where, of course, we want to run through all this with you guys as well. Okay, so if you're familiar with the area, you know, other than Clermont, recent years we have Park Clementi, Normanton Park, right? All these are within the same District 5. Okay, so let's start off with Normanton Park. Okay, price point actually is very attractive. 2.6, you get a proper 4-bedder. But when you zoom into the layout, okay, maybe you understand how come the price trend a bit lower. No doubt we have 4 proper bedrooms. Okay, but the first thing I noticed is my study actually looks extremely tiny. Right, even if I want to reconfigure to a storeroom, is actually won't be able to store as much things lah. Okay, secondly, actually the kitchen is quite small. Yeah, I think very limited countertop space, so that is actually a big turn off lah, especially to family profile. Okay, other things I will nitpick will be extension of the balcony up to bedroom 3. Okay, if you're familiar, you know Normanton Park is not in the most convenient location. Okay, it's mostly surrounded by working clusters, the One North area. So amenities also not as ready as somewhere like Clement Canopy, Clavon. Right, so with that, let's take a look at Clement Canopy. At a glance, very decent layout. Okay, I like that we have 3 bathrooms, meaning to say I have 2 en-suites. Okay, landscape living as well. Okay, so once you enter the unit, you can imagine how expensive the whole space look. Okay, so one of the things our client considered is the lease, right? Because for them, the very reason why they were looking to move is they want something that is with as much remaining lease as possible lah. So given that these 2 price points kind of trending around the same and they don't necessarily need the junior master, right? Eventually they streamline to Clavon. Okay, so of course, okay, with that we also take a quick look at Park Clementes. Okay, back then this unit 1,400 over square feet was available. It comes with a junior master, private lift. Okay, but overall the price gap is more than 700k. Okay, so with that, issues like affordability, sustainability in terms of mortgage, all these came into the equation, and you know, we decided that Clavon is the one that is the most suitable.
So if you were also to look at Clavon, we also compare that to, you know, potentially if really you want to consider to buy a new launch, what other new launch can you look at, or would Clavon be a better option, right? So if we see basically Clavon and Alta, actually they're basically side by side lah. Yeah, and in terms of the layout, is actually almost exactly the same. Right, they do have a wet and dry kitchen, a WC, a store, which is exactly the same as what Alta is offering. The bedrooms are all tucked to one corner with one common bedroom on the other side, and that's exactly the same for Alta. But one thing we notice is that even though Alta is newer, I mean it's going to TOP probably next year. Yeah. It is, in terms of price point, you're going to be paying actually a 500k gap for something of a similar size, right? So essentially you are buying next door, but you're buying way more expensive just for something that's a little bit newer. I feel it is not worth it lah, right? But if let's say we don't look at Alta, we look slightly further out, also within the District 5 area, we have other 2 options like Hudson Place and Bloomsbury as options that you can consider. But one thing to note is that quantum wise definitely is higher because these units are bigger. They are over 1,400 square feet. So both units actually offer a private lift lobby, okay, very sizable wet and dry kitchen, definitely a very big size living and dining. So essentially as you enter the unit, you'll feel that you know, it's very nice and wide because your balcony is long, you know, it's a landscape balcony, and you do have this extra flexi room as well. For Hudson and Bloomsbury, I mean, in terms of PSF wise, it might look very, very attractive because this is basically in an area that is not so developed yet. It's still transforming. Right now it's still mainly commercial and offices space. So these are the few launches that just started to launch in that area lah. So in time to come, for sure, there'll be more residential plots coming up in that area. So you're entering at a much lower price point lah. But in time to come, there will potentially be a MRT line cutting through this entire estate. Yeah, so whether or not this fits into your timeline, whether you're willing to wait, whether you're okay to move into a location that is not so convenient at this point of time, that also comes into play. But for our clients, they wanted something a bit more immediate without the need to rent.
It boils down to really looking at the options in the immediate radius. Okay, so once again, Clavon, in terms of price, it sits very nicely in between Clement Canopy and Alta. Okay, and importantly, Alta is a 500k gap lah. Okay, so we still went ahead with Clavon. Okay, and like we mentioned just now, okay, end of the day, numbers is the most important thing, right? Okay, so just comparing between 2.8 versus a 3.3 purchase once again. Okay, today, if you are 45 years old looking to take a max loan, okay, your down payment will be 800k versus 900k plus 160k difference, right? So remember just now you mentioned if you are HDB upgrader, right, who is very, very lucky to have offloaded your 5 years old 5 room, okay, your cash out is 800k cash. So just imagine this 800k, right, you don't need to touch any of your cash savings, right? All comes from your BTO. Okay, so anyway, your installment will be a 10K versus 12K. Okay, and of course, if you're not looking to take a max loan, 50% loan wise, down payment will be a 1.5 mil versus 1.78 mil, 280K difference. Okay, and installment will be 7,000 versus 8,003. Okay, so of course, okay, once again, okay, for our client, this move is more of like a forever home kind of move lah. So actually, they don't intend to move, okay, in the foreseeable future. Okay, nevertheless, we still went through the exit strategy with them. Okay, so what is assuring is really in the West, you know, there's many BTO clusters, the MOP every other quarter. Immediate radius, you have Clementi. If you expand the circle a bit, you know that Bukit Batok, Tengah, right, in time to come, every other month you have a lot of upgraders. Okay, not to mention, okay, in the area we know is very popular with PR, right? Professors working in NUS, okay, or many of the higher ups who work in the tech area in the one north. Okay, liquidity, as we mentioned, very low supply of 4-bedroom supply over here. Okay, and price protection, okay, what is assuring for our client is, okay, when we look at something that's transacted in Jurong East, okay, Jayden, okay, with the size, okay, people have already accepted a quantum of over 3.3 million for a 4-bedder. Okay. And even further out west to Seng Grand, this is at Lakeside MRT, meaning to say Jurong West, right? Okay, it is gonna launch around 2005. Okay, at this time, of course, developer hasn't announced exactly the price, but if you have heard of Sora, okay, you know that it has been trending 2324. And I think, but personally, I think no way a MRT project is gonna launch lower than a non-MRT project lah. Okay, and of course, 1 to 2 stations closer to town, okay, Dover is gonna launch 3,001 and above, right? So with Clermont today still trending at 2,002, I don't know about you, but to me it's a no-brainer lah, this entry price.
Because you actually do have a huge safety net, because you already know what is coming and what has already been transacted. So it wouldn't be more of a speculative guess or to enter and expecting that your property price will go up lah. Yeah, so I think basically what we went through today is more towards at a point of time when our client was searching for a property, what were the options that we look at, but it might not meet exactly what you're looking for. For us, we usually provide a non-obligatory consultation, especially if you're planning a move. This is not a small sum, 2.5 to 3 mil that you got to put into your property, and that you probably have to hold for at least a minimum of 4 years. So you want to make sure that you understand what kind of different options there are, whether it's the new or the resale, and whether it really meets your timeline in terms of what you're looking for and finances as well lah. Yeah, so feel free to reach out to myself or Queenie if you like to have a conversation. Thank you so much for sticking to the very end. So if you like our content so far, do help us like, share and subscribe, because it will help us a lot in providing more property insight videos for you. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye bye.